Is an API coming to Marvel Strike Force in 2021? We're talking about that with the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. CM Cerebro. Also talking about Farmable characters, real-time arena, and a lot more, guys. And if you're ready for that, Cerebro, tell him what to do, my brother.
I'll hand it over to my man Thanos. Let's go smash it.
ValleyFlyin.
What is up, Valley Maniacs? Welcome back to the ValleyFlyin channel. I am ValleyFlyin, and in this video, I am joined by the community manager, the myth, the legend, the man, Mr. Cerebro. How are you, my friend? Welcome to the channel, and a bunch of questions.
Hey, glad to be here. Oh, your name's ValleyFlyin? Oh, now I get why the name of your channel is ValleyFlyin. You're the guy. You're him.
I am him. I am him. How have you been? How's your holidays been?
Holidays were good. I had a lot of time to hang out with the family, kind of decompress a little bit. You know, we had a really big patch for the game before we left. So, you know, after it was a lot of work to get a bunch of stuff out. So it was nice to kind of just chill out for a little bit. Nice.
And how about Decimal Point Jeff? How is he doing right now?
Decimal Point Jeff, he is probably taking a little too much vacation.
Oh man, that may not be a bad thing though, right? But without further ado, let's get to the question that I know all of the inquiring minds of the Marvel Strike Force community wants to know. What the heck is Fountainable?
Fountainable. Oh yeah, okay. So yeah, that's a word that got out. So you know, we have some slang with the team when we talk about certain things. One of the recent examples also would be like Greg, right, for the Undead Asgardian. It's just like we just kind of develop this unofficial slang for things, and Fountainable is kind of one of the things that we use as like, you know, you can get this thing on a recurring interval, right?
Okay.
On a regular recurring interval. And because Farmable didn't quite do it for us, it's kind of more of a community term. It's kind of something that we use internally to talk about stuff like that.
Okay. So it wasn't a Jeff error.
No, that wasn't a Jeff error. Okay. That was a let's come up with a new name right now. That was a Devin error. Devin.
Is that who's taking over Jeff's duties in 2021?
We'll call him Live Ops Devin. How about that?
All right. That's the man. Well, when you talked about that word farmable, and I think that's a big question on the mind of community. What exactly is the devs team definition of farmable, if you guys are using that term? Because in the early 2020 roadmap, you guys mentioned that one of the big questions surrounds how we release characters to be farmable via campaign nodes, stores, orbs, or other methods. Is this still how you guys are using farmable in the offices, or how you're defining the community word as farmable for you guys? Orbs, nodes, stores, other methods?
We don't. Okay. It's so first of all, it's not our word, right? Like this was something that was really used by the community, and honestly has been used by other gaming communities before that, right? Yes. Like you know, I've worked on some of those games, so you know, it was a word that like we used once because, you know, when possible, we like to kind of use verbiage that the community we know will immediately understand.
Yes.
For example, like the word mini unique, like
yes.
We didn't call them that, but the community called them that. And honestly, like we kind of were able to agree on what the definition of mini unique is. Like they're very specific gear pieces.
Yes.
Even though we don't call them mini uniques in the game specifically, like that's not the name of them. Yeah. I think we've actually had some offers where we've called them mini uniques because it's like we're able to kind of say like, okay, the definition you guys came up with, that's pretty much a one-to-one of what it actually is. You know, we want to use terms that people are familiar with, so we'll use that. So we tried to use that once for Farmable, and I think it just caused more confusion than anything else. So
scrap this. So scrap this 2020 thing.
We discussed it, right? But it's just like there are so many different ways that characters are released, and even on top of that, it's like characters also get moved around, right? So it's like, well, using the community's definition, like, are they farmable in the war store? Well, no, I say no. But then we moved it to a node, and then when you say it's do farmable. But there are some people that do consider it. Like, okay, if a character goes into the war store, yeah, I consider this farmable. So even like within the community, like there's kind of some, a back and forth about what they think that the term should mean. So we used it once. We're probably never going to use it again because there's so many nuances to how characters are released. It's like, it's almost impossible to fit all of that into one word. So, I mean, again, internally we use Fountainable, but even that doesn't cover everything. So, it's kind of tough.
So in 2021, we can't expect campaign nodes, stores, orbs, other methods for us to obtain shards on a more reliable basis than just orbs in 2021. Is that what we're kind of looking at for the year?
Well, I mean, we're constantly exploring other methods, right? I think that the milestones is one of the really good methods, like Symbiote Spider-Man, Ghost Rider, Emma Frost, her third run's going on right now. And I think that those milestones, I think, are probably one of the best releases for characters. It almost kind of guarantees that, all players will be able to at least unlock the character. Personally, like, whenever we do those milestones by the end run, I've got a 5-star, if not a 6-star of that character. So I think that we're constantly going to experiment with new ways to release characters. We've got the new Battle Pass. I think the team is going to be interested to try that out and see, like, well, what would it look like if we put a new character into there? I think that there's constantly going to be experimentation with how we release new characters.
Okay, and talking about not only release, but to make them more accessible. But speaking of release methods, are we kind of expecting more release methods than just Blitz release? I mean, this past Blitz or this past update, we've gotten 4 Blitz release characters. We've had event release characters like in Shatterstar. We've had that milestone type character with Red Guardian and milestone characters. Are we should we be expecting to see more methods for brand new characters coming in 2021, or should we kind of look at these older methods as the status quo for this year?
I wouldn't say expect. I would not be, waiting to and expecting to see that. But again,
bad wording on my part.
No, that's okay. It's more my I get hung up on very specific words, right? Because I know, right? Like if I use the wrong word, again, look, we use the word Fountainable, and look at the commotion. It's one word, and look at all the commotion it's caused, right? So I want to make sure that we're using, the right words here. I wouldn't say expect, but again, it's a team that we're constantly going to be experimenting, tweaking to see how things work. Sometimes they work out well, sometimes they don't. And we'll continue to make adjustments and changes based on that.
Now you mentioned you don't personally consider the War Store as a method to reliably get characters. I guess that I'll use
not me.
I'll use the Fountainable word, but what is we've just it seems very, very crowded. Is the dev looking at possibly removing some of these minions? Like there's some minions that are in the War Store right now. We have Nobu in there. We have other characters that we could access their shards in different ways. Has there been talks of possibly removing some characters from the War Store, because it is getting pretty crowded in there?
There have been talks. Most of the talk has come from me.
Nice.
You mentioned Nobu. At least he's an input for Phoenix, right?
Yeah.
So I think that he justifies his place there. But sure, there are some characters in there that I've spoken to the team about. I don't know. I haven't gotten a whole lot of feedback on it, just saying like as a yes or a no. Okay. I think it's kind of like a wait and see more than anything else. But certainly, I mean, look, that's what I do, right? Like I see these conversations that happen all the time, the conversations that happen on, Reddit, Facebook, Discord, the conversations that you guys have, here on, YouTube and, Mobile Gamer over on Twitch. These are all conversations that I'm constantly listening to all the time. So I've heard this feedback, I've presented it to the team, and, a lot of the stuff that I can talk about is the stuff where we kind of get more of a solid, like, yes or no.
Gotcha.
If I give kind of an ambiguous answer, it's because of like, that's the answer I probably got. It's like, well, yeah, like we're interested in doing something like this, but we're not really sure what we want to do yet, which is a very unsatisfying answer to give, right? It's like, if you don't hear a yes, you at least want to hear a solid no, so that way you're not expecting it. And the thing is, I can't give a solid yes or no either way. But it's, it's like a lot of things, it'll be an ongoing conversation and something that I will continue to, bring up. I think probably whenever we add a new character into the War Store, I'll come back to the team and say, all right, is it time to review this yet or not? Or should we wait and we'll revisit with the next character we put in there, right?
Well, I'll be crossing my fingers that one day they will listen to you and start removing some characters. But speaking of they
listen to me. They listen to me again. Like they're considering it, right? Like if they would just say, if they said no, then they're not listening. But they are. They're listening to it. They're considering it, and there are different things that go into it.
Well, one of the things I want to talk about War right now is initially when we got War, it says upgrade for rooms planned, and I'm not sure if we saw a data mine about that or if anything official was said about that, but that was a while ago, and there hasn't been as much chatter about that. Is our War room upgrade still something that is on a table, or has that kind of been pushed back for a little while?
It's currently not a high priority. Okay. I spoke with our game director John Durr about this question specifically, because he was one of the big proponents of Alliance War and getting that feature out the door.
Yeah.
It's not currently on the roadmap for 2021. Okay. That's not to say that it couldn't be added, but it's not something that I would say that expect to come soon. I think that there's a number of other things. We're analyzing the feedback from Real Time Arena. We're looking at a lot of the requests that have come from the community, right?
Yes.
Of features that they want. So we've whenever you work on something, by default, there's something else that's not going to get worked on, right? Gotcha. So we have to try and make that call of what is the priority, and right now the room upgrades is not at the top of the list.
Okay. One of the other big requests from the community, that's more Alliance leaders than the entire community, but looking for more efficient ways that they can manage their alliance, track the activity in their alliance, looking at keys, looking at donations, and it's been talked about for a little while. Is this something that some of these alliance leaders can expect to get more relief with more tracking tools and ways that they can manage their alliance sometime in 2021?
Yes. So I would say that this will be the year that we can finally get around to addressing a number of those requests from alliance leaders and officers.
Nice.
There's one specifically, I think coming up pretty soon, where alliance leaders wanted to be able to see like the rosters of an opponent's alliance.
Okay.
And I think that's one of the ones that's coming. So, we know, I started working on this game in March of 2018. Uh-huh. So, I've seen the requests from alliance leaders for a long time. But that quite frankly, there were just some things that were more of a priority. For example, gotcha. Like, do you remember when you weren't even able to search by faction traits in squad select, right? Like that sucked. We had to address that. Or things like something we did fairly recently, being able to access squad select from the character roster. Like those are things that literally affect every single player in the game, right? Like from whether you're day one or you've been playing since day one or you started playing today. So, there were a few of those features, I think that were just kind of, unfortunately, as a priority, push some of that other stuff to the side. But this year, I personally am going to be pushing with the team a lot of the requests that alliance leaders have had, and I think you can attest to this too. I showed up in the we've got a Discord chat, a Discord server for the content creators.
Yes.
And I think what was it, about a month ago, maybe like a month and a half ago, I came in and I opened up a specific chat in there and I said, hey guys, please send me all the feedback you've got from alliance leaders, that all the things that they want. And I looked at all that feedback. I made a top 10 list and I prioritized it, sent it to the team and said, here are the 10 most important things that alliance leaders and officers need. Prioritize. Here's the stuff at the top of the list, like the number one stuff. So, they're looking at that list. They're going through it, seeing, and also a lot of times too, it's like, what's the easy stuff, right? Like the one that's number one on the list might be something that takes, months to address. It might be something that we have to fix from the ground up. But like number 8 on the list might be something that we only have to spend like a day or two and address. So that's also one of the factors, right? Is, if it's a quote unquote easy fix, well, let's get that one out the door. So, but yeah, that's something that I personally am going to be on about this year is making sure that, because alliance leaders, you guys are important, right? Like you keep the other 23 people in your alliance going and keeping them motivated. And, we really appreciate all of the time that alliance leaders put into making their alliance work like a well-oiled machine. So yes, 2021, there will be some changes, or there will be some improvements, and I will keep pushing for as many as I possibly can.
Nice. Well, you mentioned this awesome feature. I think this is one of the better things that happened in 2020 is this accessing save squads from the main roster screen, making edits super easy. This was so confusing before and took so much time before, and this is a good thing. But I guess here's the obvious question: can we get more save squads in 2021? I think we have this conversation like every 3 months or so, right?
Yeah. So I mean, the perpetual answer to that is going to be yes, eventually, right? Like, the more characters we add to the game, eventually we're going to need to add more save squads, or at least different ways in which to organize them. So I know everybody that wants to know when, right? It's not like if save squad.
When, how many, when can we get unlimited? When can we tabs? I mean, these questions always popping up.
Oh, sure. And because the questions always come up, it always starts up the discussions again, right? And it's I think with save squads in particular, it's the conversation always becomes, it's like, well, what do we want to do here? Do we want to do the short-term fix of like, or not the fix because that's a binary term, but the temporary addressing of this of like, well, let's just add like 5 more, or let's just add like 10 more.
Yeah.
Knowing that eventually we're going to need to add another 5 more or another 10 more.
Yeah.
Or do we start looking at more, high level solutions, like the long-term solutions, but these are the solutions that we know, again, that are going to take a significant amount of resources to address. Right. So that's really, I think the main issues when it comes to save squads is like, we always have this conversation again of like, do we do the short-term fix or do we begin work on the long-term fix right now, right? And again, once again, we're always, what's the priority? Is this a priority now, or are there other things that are more important right now that need to get started? So it's always going to be not when, it's or not if, but when, right? Like if you're going to add more save squads, it's when we're going to add more. And honestly, I don't have a date for that right now.
Do you envision maybe that longer term fix, the longer term solution coming sometime in 2021, or is that more depending on what the time frame is and what other things you guys are working on.
It's no clue. I don't know because it's the priorities change, right? Like, you know, there were certain things that were not a priority until they were, like the issue of not being able to sort by factions in your squad select. You know, that was not on the roadmap until it was. You know, until, you know, it's just like all of a sudden one day it was one day it was there, it wasn't there, and the next day it was there. So, and there wasn't a plan necessarily, you know, to put it on there. So it's really hard to say, especially because, you know, I don't think that we can really think about the game in the terms of of a full 12 months right now. I think we kind of think about the game as more in the terms of 6 months, which is why, like, when we did the last two, you know, kind of like a previews, we talked about stuff that was coming within like the next 5 to 6 months. And when we do that again, we want to try and get one out in February. We'll again talk about the things that are coming within like the next 5 to 6 months, because that's kind of more solidified. Whereas, you know, stuff that might come in November, December is not 100% yet. I mean, who knows? What we're talking about right now could be something that comes on December 31st of this year, but I have no idea yet, because it's hard for us to know which things are going to be a priority, you know, 8-9 months from now as compared to today.
So is that the plan, to make these a 2 times a year thing with these roadmaps for the year?
Yeah, I think that's our target.
The 6 month chunk.
I think that's our target, right? I think that, you know, it's realistic to say, you know, around. If I promise this, now everyone's going to be jumping down my throat.
I asked if it's the plan. I didn't say if it's going to happen, but I said this is the plan. So.
Right. No, but what you know, as somebody who's a personality online, what you say and what people hear are not necessarily the same thing.
What? No, that's not happening. No, I get it.
Yeah, you know, I think twice a year, you know, around like February-ish, you know, and then August-ish, you know, are good places for us to say, like, yeah, we think that we've got a good scope on what's coming up in the next 5 to 6 months, to where we can, you know, give players a preview of what to look forward to. That's what we would like to do.
I like, as a player, I really like that, and as a content creator, that made everything so awesome. But yeah, I like this, so I hope that stays.
I think it's
in
important
the plans.
for players to have things to look forward to, right?
Yeah.
Both you know, next week, next month, you know, 5 months from now. I think that's important to have.
Gotcha. Yeah, I agree. Talking about planning, let's talk about legendaries, because the legendaries have been kind of in a certain cadence for a long time. In December, there was kind of a flip-flop between Shuri and Ebony Maw, but should we be expecting these legendaries to occur in the same pattern that they have been? I mean, I see your reaction there.
Well, you're using the E word again.
I use the E word. I noticed as soon as I saw that, and I saw your reaction. So, what is a better word that I could use for that?
I don't know.
Is that the current plan? I guess should be the question.
Well, so obviously we haven't published like a rotating schedule, right? Like there is. Just based on the history of the game, you know, I know that players like to kind of come up with their own calendars. Yeah. And, you know, again, it's something that we've discussed, is like, you know, is this something that we can say is a set rotation? And honestly, it's not, because there are certain times when we think that some of the other events are better to run than the other ones, right?
As with the case in December when the Shuri and Maw got flip-flopped with their cadence. Right.
That was a scenario where we wanted to run Maw first. I can't remember the reason why, but whatever else was going on in the game, it made it better to run Ebony Maw at that time. So I mean, that's going to happen, right? Like, you know, we might have a new character that, you know, is that could be an input for one of the legendaries. And so we say like, well, then we want to move it up, right? We want to have that more in line with the other new character release, because we want it to be more clear to players that this is why you want the character, right? Like if you don't have this legendary character yet, go for this new one and it'll help you do that. Yeah. So is there going to be like a set schedule that we're going to publish and say this is definitely what it is? Probably not.
Okay.
It is fairly on a fairly consistent rotation, but there are going to be changes here and there.
Okay. So gotcha. Any plans to make any legendaries permanent, such as Nick Fury, Star-Lord, some of these older ones like Iron Man, because that is a permanent legendary character now. Are there plans to remove anybody from that rotation and give them that Iron Man treatment?
There are discussions, yes. Okay. I'm actually literally, I asked the question the other day, and I'm going to try and see if I can get some more clarification on it. We're doing some meta question answering right now.
Nice. All right, so maybe before the end of the video,
I'll see if I can get a little bit more of a solid answer. Are there discussions? Yes.
Okay.
But obviously, there's nothing that has been...
Nothing concrete.
Nothing's materialized yet.
Gotcha. Now a lot of characters have been reworked over the course of the game, except for a few factions. One of them being Hand, the other being Ravagers. Lots of questions about these factions potentially getting reworks. Is this something that we may see in 2021? The reworks to Hand or Ravagers?
I currently right now, there is not a plan to rework those entire factions, right?
Okay.
Not like we did with, like, say, AIM or something. Mm-hmm. Now, that's not to say that individual characters might not get touched up. I think one of the good kind of recent examples would be like the mercenaries, right? Uh-huh. Where it's like we didn't rework like every mercenary, but like we took some of the ones that didn't fit into like that mercenary team and said like, oh, okay, well, let's have them fit in other places, right? We had the skill military team. So let's take that other mercenary that's not being used. Or, I think Hydra was another example, right? Like we did a rework of all the Hydra minions.
Yeah.
But, when we first did that, Crossbones and Winter Soldier were not part of that. But then later on, we were like, okay, now that we've got Zemo coming out, here's an opportunity to take a couple of these guys we missed before and plug it in like that. So I think with some of those, with two of those factions like that, where, they just really haven't had a whole lot of, TLC in a long time, if those characters are touched up, I would imagine them to be kind of more like that, where we will try to find some missing slots and plug them in like that. But currently, as of right now, like, doing a full Ravager rework like we did like AIM is not on our roadmap.
Okay. Well, Nobu, there's still hope for you in 2021, brother. All right, and here's the big question that a lot of people have been wondering about: is an API finally coming in 2021? And if you guys don't know what an API is, application programming interface, basically a way for two softwares to talk to each other, and in this case it would be the game, Marvel Strike Force, and some outside software that we could access our in-game data, things like that. It's been requested for a long time. Is that something that we could finally look forward to in this 2021?
I would say so, yeah. And maybe look forward to is actually better than expect, right? Because I think now that you mentioned, because like expect is like
I've been trying to think of a better word.
Yeah. I mean I think that's probably a bit more, less committal, right?
Okay.
So looking forward to, I would say you could look forward to that. An API is something that I've been working on since I first made a presentation for it in November of 2019. We're in 2021 now, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so I think actually now that I remember, like when I originally said, like I started at the studio, I worked on the game in March of 2019, not 2018, because that's when the game was released.
Yes.
So yeah, this is something I've been working on for a really long time. And, you know, especially coming from the last game that I worked on, and saw, you know, how important it was for that community. This has been like probably the longest ongoing project that I've taken on so far. And, you know, it's kind of tough because there's only so many things that I can do myself with an API, right? Like I'm not an engineer. Yeah. You know, I can make episodes of Strike Time myself. You know, like that's, people don't know that. I do most of the work on that myself, but you know, there's a lot of other people that contribute to that as well. Like we have writers and people who like to help capture the footage and stuff like that. But gotcha. Like as a driving force, I can put that together myself. With an API, it's like, we've got these other two entities and I'm trying to connect them together. But, okay. You know, we've had, you know, our engineering team is working on it. In conjunction, they are in direct contact right now with the guys from MSF.gg.
Oh, nice.
So, and they've been, you know, talking together for, I don't know, maybe a month or something like that. But there was work going on long before that too. And one of the engineers that we have has actually worked on APIs before as well. So, yeah, we understand that this is, you know, something that's really important, you know, and I think is a testament to, you know, how much the studio is committed to the long-term health of this game, right? Like, yeah. You know, the amount of time and resources that it's gone into developing this thing just already, and like we're not done. You know, we're not even close to what I would consider to be the end game of the API. And even when it comes out, it'll be kind of like a beta. You know, like we'll probably tell people like, you know, that this is going to be like the first version of this. And it's probably going to be a lot more of like mission data, right? And stuff that you can normally kind of see in the game. Yeah. There are other considerations that will come into play before you can do things like, you know, importing your entire roster into looking into a website and then looking at it like that. I think that's going to be more of, you know, something that we do as like a phase 2. Okay. And because, you know, it's a whole different beast when you're talking about allowing a third party to access what we would consider to be like personal data, right? Mm. So there are a lot of considerations that come into play. But, you know, basically, like, I don't know if there's something like an API is ever like something that will be done. Like, it's probably something that we will always be working on and always trying to improve. But again, I think this is the year to where we're going to see that really come to fruition.
Nice. It sounds like it's the wheels are turning, and we may be seeing something very soon, but maybe not the version that people are wanting, but an initial version coming out to get the wheels rolling for all the other bells and whistles that people might want.
Yeah, you know, I think just like quality of life improvements of the game, I think there's always going to be room for improvement and ways to do that. So, you know, it's the team made it a priority last year, right? And they've put engineering people on it, and there are, you know, this is something that, you know, honestly, like when I first proposed this, I came into the attitude was like, well, how hard could this really be? You know, famous last words, right? Like, oh, there's no way that something like this would actually take very long. But, you know, I've really been impressed with how much time that the team has been willing to dedicate to getting this out the door. So, you know, kudos to them. Kudos to Thomas, who's been an engineer who's been at the forefront of this, and he's been a machine. He hit the ground running when he got put on the project and has been following through with it ever since.
Nice. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. Now, one thing that's been kind of confusing me is this new astonishing X-Men team. We just had one of the best raid teams out there in the symbiotes be released a few months ago. Now we're getting another raid team. Does this mean that maybe we're getting new raids, like maybe an Ultimus 8 or something coming in 2021? I'm still trying to figure out what this team exactly for.
So, your question is about 24 hours premature.
Oh, nice.
Ultimus 8. I don't think there's anything of an Ultimus 8 currently on the roadmap. Okay. But yeah, as far as like raid content goes, watch Strike Time this week.
Teaser days. That's
I think
tomorrow, right?
Tomorrow's
episode.
Yes, targeting tomorrow. We've got a lot of information tomorrow. I know last week, people were kind of disappointed that the blog was a little light. We're going to make up for it this week. It's going to be chunky.
It's going to be like a big one before we started the new year, that giant blog post. So we're expecting something big like that tomorrow?
Yeah. Nice. It's going to be super chunky. There's going to be a lot to talk about. I think that, Valley, I think you're going to be a busy guy this weekend.
Oh my goodness. All right. Sounds good. All right, and I guess the big question on people's minds is this new game mode, Battle Pass and the real-time arena. Mm-hmm. When I first saw this, I was like, I like the idea of it, but as I started playing, it's not really a lot of incentive for winning, not a lot of incentive to manually play this. Is the team looking at the different metrics of real-time arena right now? What people are saying about it, what the actual game data is, how many people are playing this, and are there changes planned for this game mode?
Well, first of all, yes. I mean, like we know, right? We know how many people are playing. We know, which characters they're using. Like we've got stuff. We've got instruments to measure all this stuff, right?
Okay.
And I think that's really what the team is entrenched with right now. Is they're looking at all that data. They're reading over all the feedback, and kind of trying to decide where they want to go next, both with real-time arena and with the battle pass. So the battle pass, it's like, I think there's a strong desire to expand its footprint in the game and make it touch more areas.
Nice.
I think that's nice. How a lot of things have rolled out, like especially like in the past year, I think is how the team is kind of wants to do it going forward, where like we get like a version 1 and we kind of test the waters. We want to see what people's reactions are, and then we'll implement some fixes, we'll implement some changes, and then again after we do that, once again we'll kind of take the temperature and see like, okay, is this still a path that we want to continue down? Gotcha. Or should we, pivot? Should we, this is what we had planned, but maybe we should reevaluate that at this point.
Gotcha.
So I think that's kind of where we're at right now. We're kind of at some introspection to where we're looking at the external factors and, also, where we had ideas for the game going, and seeing, what do we want to do with this next? But like, again, the team likes to experiment, right? So like, I could absolutely see the, a battle pass expanding into other areas of the game. Nice. And it's for stuff, like leagues, again, teams looking at like, well, is this something that's prudent that we should put out now, or should we wait a little while? Like we're figuring that out.
Is there anything you're able to tell us about leagues at this time, or is that still something more down the road?
Yeah, well, again, we're looking at the priorities, right? As John Durr mentioned, I think that the players are a little more divided on the feature than we'd like for it to be. Like you can't please everybody, right? Like no matter what the feature is, no matter what the decision is, you're not going to please 100% of people. For example, like Blitz Sim. Do you know anybody who hates Blitz Sim, or anybody who said that they don't like Blitz Sim?
I think most people are loving it, including myself.
I'm pretty sure most players would say that everybody loves Blitz Sim. I've actually seen feedback where people don't like Blitz Sim because they said, that the time they put into Blitz, they have more time to put into it other people, so they consider that an advantage for themselves. So they actually don't like that it takes less time because they like putting in the time. So you literally cannot please everybody, right? So you cannot please 100% of the people. That's not our goal. But I think we want to try and please 8 out of 10 people or 9 out of 10 people. We want to try and there are always going to be outliers, but we want to try and please as many people as possible. But I think that the feedback on Real Time Arena is a bit more polarizing than we'd like. There are some people that really don't like it, and there are other people that say, I'm having a lot of fun with this. I really enjoy this. Gotcha. So they're looking at that and trying to decide where to go from next. Is based on that kind of mixed feedback or feedback on the different ends of the spectrum, the extremes. Is it prudent to put out leagues now? And I think they're asking themselves, guys like John Durr, our game director, are asking themselves these questions right now.
Gotcha. Now, I know there's some changes expected in the next update that were mentioned in a blog post back in December, such as quitters. Matchmaking was also addressed in that blog post. Is matchmaking something you guys are still constantly looking at? And are there any other changes besides the quitters that might be addressed in this upcoming update?
Right. So there's a couple changes, right? It's the if somebody leaves the match, instead of the match just ending, the AI is going to take over, and you can continue to play the match. The other thing is that players are not going to get any of the credit if they quit a match. So like if they play, through most of the match, okay, and they've only got one character left and they just quit out, so that way you can't get your last knockout or something like that, they're not going to get credit for anything else that they did. So. Okay. It's really going to be to disincentivize, and I know that there are players out there that's like, well, look, if I get a bad matchup, I just don't want to play the match. I was like, well, that's fine. You can leave. The other person can play against the AI. And since you didn't actually play anything, you're not going to lose out on anything anyway. I
like it.
You're not going to get any progress anyway. So, it's really kind of a, I don't hesitate to say it, but it's kind of a win-win. Like if you still want to leave the match, go for it. But the other person doesn't lose out on playing out the match if they wanted to.
I was waiting for that. I feel bad every time I quit, and now I don't have to, so it's good.
Yeah. Now you won't have to feel bad. Your conscience will be cleared.
That is all I have. I mean, there was a lot of questions. I know you weren't able to answer every single question that I had, but yes, I think I like the answers that you gave to these questions that we did feature in the videos. So thank you for your time. Strike time. I'm looking forward to that. Strike time and the blog post tomorrow. Anything else you want to share before you go, or should we wait all for tomorrow for all that stuff?
Anything I want to share? Oh boy, kid in a candy store now. Just know that, I would let your audience know, like, look, we're always listening. I know that there are times when, they have burning questions and, we're silent, right? Like we don't give like a yes or no either way. Yeah. And more often than not, it's because just, we're discussing it. Like we don't know a 100% yes or no. Like, gotcha. I'll come on here and I'll say no. Right? Like, is there a Ravager rework planned? No. Like, I've got no problem saying no. It's just like, when we're discussing things, when we're not sure what we're going to do, that's actually a less satisfying answer, right? It's just like, what kind of an answer is to come out and say, maybe? Like that, nobody's going to be happy with maybe. Yes. You'll at least have peace of mind if we come out and say no. So, but yeah, just always know, guys. Look, we're always listening. We're always talking. Just because we don't give an answer, it doesn't mean that we're not listening. I know how frustrating it is. Look, I'm a gamer too. I play other games other than this game. I belong to other subreddits for other games. It's you want to feel like you're heard. I promise you that you guys are heard. It's tough to be patient, right? I think the final thing that, and actually this is one thing we talked about next, so I'll say it now, and I'll reiterate. Try and think about the game. This is how I think about it personally. I think about the game in 6-month increments. Mm-hmm. Are we in a better place today than we were 6 months ago? And I think yes. Yeah. And if you look at 6 months ago, like last July, is the game in a better place than it was in January? And I think that's the real test, because it takes time to implement feedback. It takes time to go through requests and to get things, on the roadmap. Our character release cadence, it takes a good 4 or 5 months to make a character. So like, if something happens like in the Marvel ethos, if we didn't have 4 or 5 months to necessarily prepare for it, maybe that's why we didn't pair something up with it. Yeah. But, when I hear players talk about, like how the game's going, the decisions that the team is making, the overall health of the game, nothing's going to be perfect. We're going to make some decisions that fall flat. And there are some times we make decisions where we come back later and say, you know what, maybe that wasn't the right one. But I think overall, if the game is in a better place than it was 6 months ago, I think we're on the right track. And perpetually, I think we can do that, right? So if you and I do another interview in 6 months, I want to come on and say, like, and ask your audience, do you think the game is in a better place now than it is 6 months ago? I think that's a good sign.
Yeah.
The answer is no, then we've got a problem. But and not every move is going to be a right one. But overall, at the highest level, look, think about what we didn't have 6 months ago. We didn't have blitz sims. We didn't have symbiotes. We didn't have the full symbiote team. We didn't have the ability to access the roster or the squad select from the roster or like the traits, like the bleed icon. Oh my gosh, we came out with the new bleed icon. Like, forget ISO 8. Everyone was like, the new bleed icon. This is the greatest thing you guys have ever done, right? Like, there are some good decisions in there.
All the functions that we want and we didn't know we wanted.
Yeah, exactly. So, I guess that's
I like that you guys are willing to pivot pretty quickly if something's not working. One of the decisions, and I like it. So thank you for all the work you do. Thank you for all the insight that you provide the community and pushing the devs in certain directions. I really appreciate that. I remember how the game was before you got here, and it's a very different game since you got here. So yeah, things are looking good. So
and honestly, a sincere thank you to you and to all your audience too, because like, I'm a conduit for you guys, right? Like I take that feedback, I filter it, I prioritize it, and without the community feedback, like I'm going to be sitting over here empty-handed. So, thank you guys. Please continue to give us your feedback, positive, negative, whatever. I think we can all agree that we're here for the game. We want the game to be the best it can possibly be. So thank you.
Nice. Well, thank you, brother. Thank you. Check out the episode of Strike Time and the blog post tomorrow. It sounds very, very juicy, and I cannot wait for another 24 hours to figure out what is going on with this astonishing X-Men team. Before you go, Cerebro, can you give me a Hulk fist pump?
I'll give you two.
Oh, there, a double one, baby. Oh yeah. ValleyFlyin and Cerebro out.